What's going on, legends? Thanks for tuning in again. It's come time to wiring up the Dory. So I've drawn a little simple diagram of how to go about it. It's fairly basic, so just follow it along and see how you go. And I'll show you all the mistakes that I've made. No, I'm going alright. It shouldn't be too long now, so we're just starting the whole wiring process now. Once that's done, it pretty much will be back on the water. So let's get into it, guys. Hope you enjoy. I've gone ahead and drawn this simple little diagram up. I know the colours aren't right, but it stands out a lot better with the green. So as you can see, the green line is the negative off the battery. It runs all the way over to the fuse box. Bang, there you go. But we won't get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the positive. So the positive from the battery will go to your circuit breaker, which we have nice and close to the battery. From there, we run over to our isolator, which is underneath the console. Then from there, it runs to the fuse box as well. So that will be powering the whole fuse box. Then from each fuse, we'll run that straight to a switch. So that's powering the switch. Then from the other side of the switch, we can run that over to our lights, sounder, the MP3 player. And with the negatives on that, we run them all the way back to the fuse box, because it's got a little bus bar on the bottom of it, which we can join onto. It's just a simple little diagram, but if you follow that, you'll get it all done right. All right, here's the fun part. We've got to wire it all up. So we've got our positive and negative coming from the switchboard. It's going to run over here to the fuse box. Got the isolator there. Got the MP3 player. Got to figure out what all those wires are, so that's going to be fun. Yeah, got a little USB charger there too. All my bits and pieces. So yeah, let's get all this done. Get the boat wired up. Let's see how we go. So a good little trick when you're wiring up. So you've got all the switches here. You've got abundance of wires, and you're not going to know what they are once you chuck your conduit on them. So I've gone ahead, just put some little tags on there. Like there you got switch 1, there you got the mains positive, mains negative. So once that's all conduited up, and we run it over to the fuse box, we're going to know what they are. I'm just setting up the wires from the battery through the circuit breaker to the isolator, then to the fuse box. So I got 16 gauge here, and yeah, I'll show you how I solder it all together and put the ends on. By no means I'm no auto electrician, so if I'm not doing it right, chuck in your comments down below and tell me how to do it right. So let's get it all together, eh? So when I'm soldering the terminals onto this wire, I just clean it all up. I've got this flux pen I got from J-Car. I'll just give it a good clean up with that. I've got the terminal here as well. So before I put that on, I'm going to try and cover this in solder. I've just got the cheap solder from J-Car as well, and just a cheap soldering iron I brought from Bunnings for like 20 bucks. So we'll get some solder on that, whack the terminal on, give it a good crimp, and then load it up with solder again. And I've got a bit of heat shrink on there too, which I'll cover it up as well. Try and get the wire straight, makes it a bit easier. Alright, so I've got it all soldered up, put the terminal on. It's got a pair of vice grips. So all you got to do, get on there, give it a good squeeze, lock it in. There you go, she's on. So next, we'll get the mat gas out and really get some heat into it and load it right up with solder. Alright, now we've got our terminal on the end of it. We've crimped it up. I'm going to get the old flux pen, load it right up. Get right in there. Get it all in there. Noisy freaking birds. This probably isn't the best way to do it, but it works for me, so if you've got any comments below, tell me how to do it properly, feel free to chuck them in there. Get that going. Just pump a lot of heat into it. Load it right up the beef in there. So it's time to wire this console up. Get all the wires from the front of this all the way to the lights, the nav lights, bilge pump, the motor, the anchor light, all of them, the MP3 player. So I've been to my trusty friends over at J-Car, spent an absolute fortune there. I couldn't wait to get it off eBay because I wanted to do it now. So I've got my 15 amp wire here, and I'm going to run all of that through the conduit. So up the front here I've got the 2 lights, got the nav lights, and I'm going to run 2 speakers in here as well. So I'll run some speaker wire through there, so later on we can wire up that MP3 player and have some tunes cranking. I've got my 2-core 15 amp wire here, which I'm pretty much going to be running everything. So I'll run that through the conduit. I'll get 3 of them up here. See if I eventually want to put some deck lights in, I can. And I'll get the speaker wire through the conduit as well. And we'll go ahead to hooking all these up. As you can see, we've still got old wire hanging out from when it was a tinny. And yeah, looks like a lot of fun. Got a bit of room, so it shouldn't be too bad. Got an old deck light there. Probably got to get rid of them anyway. Let's see how it all goes. With this 2-core wire, just going to run it a bit past the console, get it all the way up into lights, wrap it around to get to this light, and I'll make 3 of them and get them in there. So once you've got all your lengths cut, make sure you mark your wires too, because once it's in the conduit, it's going to be impossible to figure out which ones are which. So once they're all marked, mark both ends, wrap in the conduit, then we can get it under these gunnels and then start playing around underneath this console. So we've got a couple of penetrations under here to get the wiring through. So what I'm going to use, I'm just going to give it a pre-drill so I get it in spot with a 1/8 drill bit, and I've got this awesome step bit. It's Milwaukee one and it goes really well. So I'll punch that through, get the right hole size, get my conduit through, and then yeah, we'll have all the wires underneath here. We'll be able to get it all done. There you go, we've got our wire through. So I'll get a bit of Sikaflex up there and secure it all so it's not rubbing around on that hole. Usually you'd chuck a grommet or a gland in there and do it properly, but we're building this backyard at the moment, so this will be just as good. Yeah, run it all under these gunnels and get it back to the console. So now the wiring's underway, I figured I'll just do a little video of how I did the flooring. So I've taken all the foam out, so we need to put it back in. So what I've done, I've gone down to Bunnings and literally bought about 40 pool noodles and chucked them under both floors. So it's all under the console floor, it's all under this floor, and there is so much more foam than what came out of the boat. So I'm pretty confident that if the boat takes on water, it's going to float. Anyways, let's get this floor on and see how you go. So the screws I'm using are 10 gauge, 1.5 inch stainless steel screws that are countersunk. Because I've gone and got the wood ones and didn't even figure that out, I've had to go through and pre-drill all my holes first, because otherwise the screws just keep snapping. But because they're stainless steel as well, you need to put a compound between the stainless and alley, otherwise you'll start getting corrosion happening underneath your floor. So make sure you do that. Instead of going out and buying LED strips and everything on eBay, I was just down at BCF and I found this thing. It's all there. Looks pretty easy to install as well, and it's got a control on it too, so you can have blue or white lights. So that's going to look pretty cool in the tinny, I reckon. So we'll wire that in, and it's for marine too, so it'll last a lot longer than those eBay specials. So we'll get that in and see how it looks. To secure the conduit, I've gone and got these little mounting brackets. So you just whack a zip tie through them and you can wire them up. So what I'm going to do, it's got double-sided tape, but I'm going to put a little bit of Sikaflex on there too, just for a bit of extra protection. So you can see I've mounted it on the side of the gunnel, because eventually I'm going to have some rod holders and cup holders coming through here. And I'd hate to put a hole saw straight through my wiring. That would really mess up your day. I got these cool joiners off eBay. So what they are, they've got solder in the middle of them and they've got the heat shrink around it. So basically you just twist your wires a bit, chuck it in the middle, use your heat gun, heat it right up and it becomes waterproof. So I think this whole pack was about 20 bucks on eBay and it's been pretty handy. I quite like them. So we've got most of the wiring done now. I haven't got the battery in yet, but I'm just powering it off this power hub I've got. We'll still need to neaten it all up and secure it all under the gunnels, the wiring up there. But I've wired up my nav lights and the spotlights. So I'll just show you. So we've got the switches, I've got them turned on, so I just turn it off. Got the isolator underneath there. You can see it's a big mess, so I still need to clean it all up. But we'll get that isolator on. If I can reach it. There we go. And we'll just power these switches up. There you go, it should be the nav lights. That should be the spotlights. So if we come over, there you go, they're all working. So that's basically how to wire everything up. I've still got to go through, wire up all the deck lights, the sounder, the anchor light and everything else. So still got a bit more time to wire up, but we're getting there. And once the finished product's up, I'll show you all the wiring completed.